Well, everyone, just so excited to have Gary LIndner on the call tonight, and welcome everyone. If you haven't met Dr. Gary LIndner, he's a PhD physiologist. He's been a professor at several universities, published a lot of papers. One of the leading experts in just animal reproduction, and just an amazing individual. He's gone through pretty much all the stuff that has to do with Nikken, as well as pretty much anything to keep you healthy. And he's got a lot of powerful ideas that can change your life if you apply them. But Gary LIndner, I'm going to just turn it over to you. And active wellness, that sounds really good. Taking charge of your own health. What a concept.
Yeah, what a concept. And as we were just talking, no better time for people to pay attention to this than right now. Let me start by just kind of relating a story that something happened to me just a couple weeks ago, and my wife and I changed our healthcare product provider, or healthcare providers, and so I had to go in for a physical. And so I set up the appointment for that, went into the doctor's office and went up to the receptionist, and she handed me the forms that you fill out, the very lengthy forms to fill out for that. And about halfway down the page, it asked a question. It actually gave me a directive. It said, list the current medications that you're currently taking. And so I got up and walked up to the receptionist, and I said, ma'am, I got a question about this medications I'm on. And she didn't even look up from her computer. And there was like 20 spaces there, okay, to list like 20 medications. Didn't even look up at me from her computer, and just said, grabbed another sheet and said, oh, honey, don't worry about that. I have another sheet here that you can add the rest of them on to. Now, that was kind of eye-opening to me, one. And, you know, I said, I'm not on any medications. And she kind of looked at the top of what I filled out. She said, you know, you're 63 years old. You don't take any medications, any prescription drugs? And I said, no, ma'am, I don't. And she said, well, don't worry, just leave it blank. And so I wait in an inordinate amount of time. They call me into the examination room, and the nurse comes in to take my vitals. But first thing she looks is at that entrance form. And she goes, Mr. LIndner, I think you forgot something. And I look at her, and she said, you forgot to list the medications you're on. And I looked right at her and said, I'm sorry, I'm not on any medications. And she just looked at me with this very quizzical look. About that time, the doctor came in and overheard her say, I'm not on any medications. First thing he said to me was, you're not on any medications. And he had glasses on. He kind of leaned down, looked at me like this, and both the nurse and he are standing there looking at me like I'm from another planet. And then I said something I probably shouldn't have. I said, you know, I think 4.3 billion prescriptions a year filled in the US are quite enough. I don't think I really need to add to that. And needless to say, we really didn't get off on the right start there, or on the right foot. But anyways, that was, again, kind of eye-opening to me. And I think really what we have to wonder here is, you know, one, why do we need so many prescription drugs? And we aren't talking about a few. That figure that I just threw out is really a large figure. I mean, there's 4.3 billion prescriptions filled annually in the US. And if we look at that, say 20 years ago, it's almost doubled. And if we want to look at it in the future, don't we want that to go down? We don't want it to go up 7 to 10% of more prescription drugs each year. If we look at the cost of that, it's the fastest growing fraction of the nation's healthcare expense. And pharmacy bills are a significant portion of monthly expenses for most families. And given that fact, I think we really want to ask the questions as to why do we need this many? And that would be a logical question to ask. And I'm trying to click my slides and they aren't moving forward. Why, I don't know. Oh, because I moved this mouse more than likely. Yes, there we go. Why? Why do we need these many prescription drugs? And let's look at this from the standpoint of really how the world has changed. We pretty much have created a very toxic environment for us as far as chemical toxins in a relatively short period of time, say in the last 100, 150 years at the most. And if we look at that and compare that to how we change biologically, we change very slowly. So we live in this very toxic environment where we have chemicals in the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, on the beds we sleep on, cleaning products in the home, off-gassing of carpet, paints, you name it. And just about everywhere we go, we are taking in these toxins. And what that does is create a body burden of these toxic chemicals. And there's a very strong correlation between this body burden and chronic diseases. And if we look at the main cost for these pharmaceutical interventions, it's basically, chronic disease. And like this slide says, body burden is a relatively new term. It came about in about 2000, 2001 from the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, looking really at how many toxins that the average person has at any one specific time. And looking at that and the incidence of chronic disease really is our major healthcare expense. That's where most of the pharmaceutical drugs are going, surgeries for different type of things. If we look at that from a statistic standpoint, 1/2 of all adults have one or more chronic conditions. By the time we're 65, that figure jumps to 80%, have 2 or more, and on the average is somewhere around 12 to 13 medications. Now, 80% of our population, by the time we're 65, have 2 or more chronic diseases. I find that fact totally unacceptable. And something has to change to do that. Chronic disease is responsible for 70% of the deaths in this country. So if we look at this environmental toxin problem, all right, over 80,000 chemicals are currently used in the US, and we've required testing on fewer than 0.625% of those. Now, that Time magazine that you see on this slide, called The Poisoning of America, was the cover story in September 22nd of 1980. So this is not new information. So my question here is, has that problem of our toxic environment gotten better in the last 35 years, or has it gotten worse? And it's gotten worse. It's gotten exponentially worse. Each of us have more than 200 contaminants, and depending on the source you look at, sometimes it's 500 to 700 contaminants in our bodies at any one time. This is a huge problem leading to this body burden. So we almost have this cascade of events. A toxic environment, our ability to excrete those toxins is compromised simply from the fact of how many we're taking in on a daily basis or a minute-by-minute basis. And what that leads to is a number of diseases. Now, it's not just adults, it's also children. This was a study done in 2005 by the Environmental Working Group. It took the umbilical cord blood of newborn infants and analyzed them for toxic chemicals. And you can see what they have there. But you can look at this another way too, and the way I look at it is that babies being born today have a much higher burden. And when does this tipping point hit to where all of a sudden those toxic chemicals manifest as disease? So if you're to look at this, you could ask the question, who's at greatest risk in our society for health problems? And I would say the younger somebody is, the greater risk that they pose. And I think our statistics currently kind of point this out. It's not, I was just on the phone with somebody a couple weeks ago in their I think the gentleman, the lady was chatting with me, the wife, and the husband was 39 years old and just had a massive heart attack. So aren't we not seeing heart problems, cancer, stroke, things along those lines, diabetes, show up at earlier and earlier ages in our society? And I think this also points to the same problem of hitting that tipping point to where all of a sudden the accumulation of those toxins triggers a disease. And these are the diseases that we're talking about. These are the ones that, at least in the literature, have been linked to environmental toxicity. The ones I haven't read are the top 6 in our society, but there's diseases there that we never even heard of a generation or 2 ago, as Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. Look at the incidence of ADD, ADHD. What about autism? 15 years ago, it was 1 in 1,000 children. Now it's 1 in 100, and in certain environments, it's 1 in 50. And this has a direct relation to this toxic environment. All these diseases basically have 3 things in common. 1, environmental toxicity is a factor in their expression. Number 2 is that they are all chronic diseases, which means they are ongoing and need to be treated and managed for the rest of that person's life in conventional health. And the third, and most interesting, is they're pretty much all preventable. So here's our largest healthcare expenditure, treating and managing preventable diseases. So don't panic, right? Don't panic out there, because we're going to talk about some solutions. And that's the thing I love most about Nikken, is we can give people some solutions. We can give them some choices. And if we were to look at an answer for this, we all know the answer, and we've known it all our lives. Ben Franklin knew it. My mom knew it because she would quote Ben Franklin quite a lot, saying an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And prevention works if we implement it. If we as individuals lead a prevention-focused lifestyle, our chances of being healthier are better than someone who does not. But it's not all about diet and exercise. Now, we've been teaching, and health professionals have been teaching about diet and exercise for, 60, 70 years, but even, a long time even before that, but been in the forefront for at least 50, 60 years. And we keep getting sicker and sicker and sicker. So just diet and exercise alone is not effective on a societal basis. It may be for individuals, but what's the problem with that? The problem with it is that most people won't do it because it involves a change in their lifestyle. So here's the other problem with it, if we're just looking at diet and exercise. And I'm going to throw this out there. I think you can be very, very conscious that way, but with all of the toxins in the environment, you still got a pretty good chance of contracting some type of chronic disease. And that's my own opinion. If we look at this, here's the other thing with that. If we change our diet, we implement a exercise program, the changes that we see in health happen very slowly. And usually what happens is somebody doesn't stick with it because they don't feel that much better. All right? So it doesn't satisfy what I like to call our immediate gratification gene that we all have. It's a slow process until we see some type of result. So we usually end up quitting before we even give it a chance to help improve our health. And it's really because people are resistant to change. It seems to me that we're very willing to change our environment, but very unwilling to change ourselves, right? So let's talk about wellness for a minute. And wellness, here's the definition from the dictionary, and this is Webster's definition: the quality or state of being in good health, especially as an actively sought goal. Now, that's all well and good, but I think this whole concept of wellness, the wellness industry, has become very confusing. A lot of times, because of that immediate gratification, we turn to things like this. You know, we've been taught our entire lifetime to be consumers of modern medicine, especially pharmaceutical medicine, to where if our head hurts, we can take a pill. If we want to lose weight, we take a pill. If we don't sleep well, we can take a pill. If we're not in a good mood, we can take a pill. And we've been taught that. And so we're looking for that immediate gratification in these magic pills, if you will. And it's not just pills, it's jugs of juice and all kinds of things that basically all these products here are good antioxidants. And I'm very pro for antioxidants. But again, I don't think they can give the results people are looking for when we're talking about a good health plan or total health. You know, people turn to things like this, basically vitamin water, which I find completely ridiculous because some of the vitamins we need are fat soluble. We can't put them in water to begin with. And the companies that own these vitamin waters are big soda companies. And if you look at the ingredients, there's 27 grams of sugar in this one I'm showing right here of refined sugar. So they really aren't about helping you be healthier. What they're really about is making profit for those companies. They aren't about people, they're about profit. So this whole idea of wellness, again, like I said, has become very confusing, and it's become confusing to the point for a lot of people that they won't do anything. You know, if you're going to look, and let's just use calcium, a calcium supplement in a store, how many choices do you have? I mean, there could be 30, 40 different types of calcium that you could use. Which one do you choose? Which one's better than the other? And what do most people choose? They let their wallet decide what they're going to choose. And I find it very distressing that people often make health decisions based on how much money is in their wallet. You know, I speak a lot to different business groups, networking groups, Lions, Rotaries, things like that. One of the first questions before I do a luncheon presentation I ask of the crowd is, how many people here, and they're all business people usually, how many people here know what their monthly budget is for their health? And I'm not talking about your health insurance plan. I'm talking about how much you invest monthly for yourself and your family to be healthy. And I get the deer in the headlight looks. I get very few people that raise their hand. And these are business people that understand investment and return on investment. And I find it quite distressing that we don't look at our health that way. If we want any type of asset that's a benefit or a good asset, we need to invest time, energy, and money into it to have a return on an investment, and our health is no different. So don't let your wallet dictate your health. And we've just done a lot of things really cool that way with Nikken as far as competitive pricing. So to make some of these choices more affordable for many people, and I think that's a great thing. So my hat's off to Nikken for doing that. So this has become very confusing. So let's try to simplify it. Let's try to give it an easy button. Let's look at health. Let's look at a total healthcare solution. And at first, what we need to do is really identify what our body needs, or what the keys are for good health. So I think we would want to understand our body's requirements. That'd be a good idea. What do our bodies need? We would want to reduce this body burden of toxic chemicals. And if we could find an easy button or a simple way for people to do it, even better. I like to use this example. This little guy's pretty relaxed. He's kicked back there and doesn't look like he's expending much energy, but actually his body's very busy. And the example I like to use is kind of a little quiz, and I ask the question, what is the one thing that we all do every second of our life, our entire lifetime, and we expend the most energy in our lifetime doing? And many times I get the answer of breathing. If I'm asking this to a live audience, I get a number of people that say breathing's the answer. And breathing is a great answer. but it's not the one I'm looking for. The one I'm looking for is we expend the most energy in our lifetime doing one thing, which is keeping our bodies at 98.6 degrees or 37 degrees centigrade. And we can only function in a very narrow range of that temperature. A little too hot, fever, things start to shut down. Colder, things shut down. So we need to do that. So let's look at that answer, breathing. And breathing is a good answer because don't we need oxygen to be able to keep our bodies at 98.6? Of course we do. Don't we need water to hydrate ourselves, to help cool ourselves, to help, we're 75% water. So these are things that are essential for life. But look at them also as tools and requirements that our body needs. Do we need food to burn as fuel? We do. And do we need to sleep and recover each day so we continue to keep our body temperature at that 98.6 degrees? We do. And these are the things that Nikken has looked at. It's actually very, very elegant from a scientific standpoint, but also very practical in its application. So while Western medicine and pharmaceutical companies have studied disease for the last 40 years, Nikken's looked at health and said, why aren't we as healthy as we can be? We have a picture there of somebody with a back problem. That's a huge, huge problem for people with chronic pain with pharmaceutical drugs. And it can also, and sometimes can lead to some very disastrous results. But how about natural ways to take care of that, using some natural energies? What a great idea. So Nikken's partnered with a very prestigious organization called Healthy Child, Healthy World. They're an advocacy group. You can visit their webpage at healthychild.org. And a quote from there says, pretty much, if I were to paraphrase this quote from their website, here's a company that provides a solution for every aspect of health. And again, I say that is extremely powerful, but also very extremely profound. So scientists believe that we're designed to live for 120 years, and 120 years in vibrant, good health. And in fact, some sources say up to 150 to 170 years. We have 10 trillion cells in our body, and it's our job to replace 6 billion of those a day, just to maintain our health. And if cells don't divide, they age and they die. If we don't provide all the tools for our bodies to do that, it's not going to be a good result. We need to replace our largest organ, our skin, every 30 days, our second largest organ, our bones, every 7 to 10 years, depending on our age. A lot of things happen physiologically in the bones to help us be healthy. Our lung and our liver tissue every 6 weeks, and our entire intestinal and gut lining every 7 days. So if we're not providing our body with the tools it needs to do that, it can contribute to disease and early demise. So what if, and I like to ask this question too, just what if there was a way to provide your body with what it needs to be healthy? We could reduce this body burden of chemical contaminants, and there was an easy way to do it. Would people want to know about it? In my experience of 17 years of tenure here with Nikken, they do. People are looking for these solutions, and that's exactly what we provide them with the Nikken choice. We call it a wellness home. And inside that wellness home, we clean up their water, we give them a chemical-free environment, whole food nutrition, quality sleep. And if you're listening to this for the first time, you can go visit the webpage of whoever invited you and look at some of these products and technologies. There's great explanations about them on there. And the main thing here really is that most companies, a lot of people just think of one or two things. This is a encompassing, in toto, if you will, encompassing healthcare plan for you and your family. There's, other people address little bits of health, but only Nikken really addresses it all. And I would have to say that's what really impressed me as a physiologist. And in case you don't know, physiology is a study of how the body works. So I'm not a medical doctor. I never really studied diseases or disease process, but I studied how the body works in a healthy condition and really what it needs to be able to do that. So this is the total package. And I like to explain that by looking at basically a diagram of the cell and every requirement a cell needs. I've shown this to a lot of health professionals, physicians, and asked, is there anything else you would add? And usually the response is, no, that's pretty comprehensive. So again, 10 trillion cells, we need to replace 6 billion of them a day. Each of these cells require the things that you see on your screen here. Now, here is the really interesting thing about Nikken and active wellness in the wellness home. Here is the product or technology associated with that need. Now, if I were on stage right now, I'd be jumping up and down because I want people to really get this. That, you know, this is, again, really, you know, I love the fact that Nikken's choices, their solutions are based on science, but then really delivered in a very practical way to apply them. This is incredible. It's very hard for me to explain how good you can feel in a wellness home. I think all of us that have partnered with Nikken have difficulty doing that. It's very experiential, but I have seen lives changed, like I said, for over 17 years with people that have created this wellness home, this health, this self-health care plan. It's phenomenal. And here's the other thing. You don't have to change. The products will change you. As I said before, we're very willing to change our environment, very unwilling to change ourselves. And pretty much that's what we're doing. We're cleaning up, we're cleaning up, we're removing that body burden of toxic chemicals. We're reducing that. We're helping your body do that because it's what it wants to do. And by reducing that intake, we're giving it a chance to do so. At the same time, excuse me, we're giving the body the tools that it requires to replace those 6 billion cells. I have seen people totally resistant to change, to anything that wasn't advocated by their medical professionals, just make a few simple changes in this concept of a wellness home and see great health benefits. Now, here's the other thing I've noticed too, is that they start to feel better in a relatively short period of time. So we've satisfied that gratification need. And then all of a sudden, they start to make lifestyle changes, choices that they wouldn't have done before. For example, if they're at the store, they may park their car in the furthest parking place from the entry rather than the closest. So they get a little exercise, all right? They may, sitting at lunch, instead of having that cheeseburger, have a salad. Now, why are they doing that? They're doing that because they feel better. They might start a more rigorous exercise program. A good friend of mine just did that. Her husband said, I've never seen her exercise for 30 years. And now all of a sudden she's exercising. But because we're feeling better, we will add to that. And here's the thing, I don't think there's any limit as to how good we can feel. So if we have that gratification and we're feeling better, we will add to that. And the nice thing about Nikken is they add to it as well with new products, new technologies, upgraded products, you know, to help us along that path. So Nikken products fit into the rhythm of your day. So let me give you a quick example. So I wake up from my Nikken sleep system. I used to wake up stiff and sore, kind of grumpy, take me 20, 30 minutes just to loosen up. I wake up now not stiff and sore, totally rested, go in and take a shower with Nikken shower system. I have a breakfast with our protein drink, Kenzen Vital Balance, which in my opinion is the healthiest food on the planet. During the day, I'm wearing some of our energy products, our triphase products, to provide my body with natural energies throughout the day. If I don't have time for a lunch or I really don't want lunch, I may have another another Kenzen Vital Balance shake. I may have some J Greenzyme, which is a barley grass product we have. We have lots of choices there that I really don't have to go out of my way, that just fit into what I'm doing in my daily activities. Now, the other nice thing is that Nikken is applicable to any rhythm of our lives, regardless of our age or current health status. So what we've done really is taken technology and science to replicate nature, to provide our body with the tools it needs. This is a quote that I use frequently in presentations, and it is something that I would advocate with anyone, that the wellness home and Nikken's choices here are the most logical, effective, and affordable prevention-focused healthcare system in the world, bar none. There's no other company like this on the planet that looks at health the way we do, nor is there any other company that provides solutions the way that Nikken does, and they are committed to do that. We are about people, we are not about profit, and I love that part too. Somebody asked me up in Seattle Day when we were there over the weekend, and they said, you know, Gary, what is it that you really love most about Nikken? And I said, it's given me a forum. I used to teach at universities, do research, and then I went on and co-founded a biotech company here in Central California. And I miss that part of teaching, that part where you're providing people with some information. And basically what we're doing here is, and hopefully inspiring them, and then empowering them so they can take action. I miss that part of teaching, and Nikken has brought that desire that I miss so much back into my life. But more important than that, we're making people aware. We're making people aware of problems and then providing them with choices so they can take care of that. And that's pretty cool. I mean, I love it. Like I said, I've been doing this 17 years, and I plan on to continue doing it forever. So if we look at this, if you remember anything from this short presentation, I want you to remember these next two slides. So when I showed this the other day, I said, is there any health professionals in the audience? And there were. I said, take a look at this. And these are symptoms of what? And people are usually throwing out different types of chronic diseases, whether it be diabetes or, whatever, high blood pressure, whatever it might be, all right? And these are symptoms that are usually treated with pharmaceutical medication. But they are also symptoms of some pretty simple things. These are symptoms of dehydration, not having enough water or enough good quality water. They are also symptoms of poor sleep quality. And they are also symptoms associated with just plain not getting enough sunlight a day, not getting 20, 25 minutes of sunlight a day, having a vitamin D deficiency. And you have to almost wonder how many people are being prescribed medication for something that's just as simple as drinking more water, getting a better night's sleep, and getting 20, 25 minutes of sunlight. And very rarely is your medical professional asking you questions about these things. So I'll just throw that out there. So this is a quote: the best way to predict your future is to create it. And looking to see where it originally came from, the first person I saw was Abraham Lincoln said that. So take this information and adapt this to your health, and do this very sincerely, because the biggest asset we have in our lives is our health, because without it, we pretty much don't have anything. And like I said, regardless of where you are currently on that staircase of good health to poor health, there are solutions here for you. They're very elegant from a scientific standpoint, but very practical in their application. So with that, Dave, I will thank you very much. I appreciate and honor the chance to be here and chat and inform everybody.
Gary, thank you so much. I am so glad I use Active Wellness, and I wish everyone did. So anyway, this is worthy of your most serious investigation, and thanks for for these good thoughts, Gary. You're awesome.
Thank you, Dave. You're awesome too.
Thank you.